grade level, and most importantly, new learnings. Good day, grade 9 students. I, your teacher, Ma'am Wilmay Ferrer, welcome you back to school and to the English 9 class, week 1, quarter 1. Before we proceed, I would like to know first your level of excitement as we open another school year. As you can see, there are 3 emoticons in this side that will represent your emotion. You will just rate yourself from 3 to 1. 3 being the highest and 1 being the lowest. Write your answer on a clean sheet of paper. I will give you 5 seconds to do it. Alright, you may start answering now. Time is up, class. For me to know your answer, I want you to take a picture of it and send it to our group chat. Is that clear? Our learning competency is express permission, obligation, and prohibition using modals. The learning objectives of our lesson are the following. Define modals. Second, identify the purposes of the different modals. Next is use modals in sentences appropriately. Okay, let us begin our discussion by defining what modals are.
Many still find it challenging to learn modals. When we talk about modals, they are verbs that give additional meaning to the main verb that follows it in a sentence. In other words, their presence in a sentence expresses ideas such as permission, lack of necessity, ability, advice, obligation, possibility, prohibition, and probability. They are also called modal verbs or modal auxiliaries. While modals have a lot of functions, we will only focus on permission, obligation, and prohibition.
I must take my medicine. Students, I want you to identify the modal verb and the main verb in a sentence. You may write your answer on a piece of paper. I am giving you 3 seconds to do it. Let's now reveal the answers. The main verb is take and the modal verb is must. With the presence of the modal verb must, this statement does not just express an action, but it actually expresses an obligation. Here are some characteristics of modal verbs. First, their form never changes, meaning you can't add s, ed, or ing to the main verb. It is incorrect to say all should sign before the contest. Using the same example, it is also incorrect to use shoulded and shoulding. The correct version of the sentence is all should sign before the contest. And second, an infinitive always follows them without to, also called the bare infinitive. Examples: you must limit your child from using a cell phone. I could tell everything that happened. Third, they are used to express functions such as permission, obligation, prohibition, and the like, as mentioned in the first part of our discussion. Now that you are being guided with the definition and characteristics of modals, it's time to discuss one by one the 3 specific functions I pointed out earlier, starting with modals expressing permission.
Modals expressing permission are can, could, and may. A. You use can to ask for and give permission. Can is less formal and direct among the 3. Example: can you lend me your book for a week? You are asking for permission. You can disarrange the set now. You are giving permission. She can give comments on my video lesson. The sentence also gives permission. B. You use could to ask for permission but not to give it. It is a more polite form than can. Example: could I have my stand on the issue? Could you explain why you stopped going to the gym? Remember, could is only used to ask for permission and not to give permission. E. You use could to ask for permission but not to give it. It is a more polite form than can. Examples: could I have my stand on the issue? Could you explain why you stopped going to the gym? Remember, could is only used to ask for permission and not to give permission. E. Could is also the past form of the modal verb can, where it can be used to express that someone was allowed to do something in the past. Examples: we could enter the school without checking our temperature. We could go to Baguio anytime. The examples clearly state that these actions were only allowed in the past and not in our current situation. E. You use may when asking or giving permission as well, but it is used in more formal situations. Examples: may I know your available time tomorrow? You may go to the refrigerator and get something to eat. She may proceed with her presentation. When you are engaged in a formal setup, such as an online meeting, class, or discussion, modal verb may is the correct one to use. Now, let us talk about modals expressing obligation. Modals expressing obligation are have to, must, and should. Letter A. You use has or have to express a strong obligation. It shows us that the obligation doesn't come from the person who is speaking. It may be a general rule or a law. Here are some examples. Number 1. We have to pay bills on time. Since the subject we is in the plural form, modal verb have to is used. Is it our obligation to pay our bills on time? Yes, it is. That is why the modal is correctly used in the sentence. Second, Ellie has to work tonight, so he can't attend the party. Here, Ellie is the subject in the sentence. It is in singular form. That's why modal verb has to is used. Ellie is an employee, so he has an obligation to report to his work. Third example, students have to follow the assigned date for the retrieval of the books. We have a plural subject, so have to is used. Is it your obligation to follow assigned dates in your school? The answer is yes. You use must to talk about obligations that come from the person who is speaking. It also expresses a strong obligation or necessity. Do not get confused about its difference from the first one. Has, have to. The obligation doesn't come from the person who is speaking. Must, the obligation comes from the person who is speaking. Examples: I must keep striving for my future. You must listen attentively to the speaker. Her ideas are helpful. Children must be careful when crossing the street. P. You use should to express a weak obligation. You also use it to give advice, telling people what you think is a good idea. Examples: you should put the camera in the cabinet. You should start watching Friends. It has brilliant actors. He should solve his own problem and not run away from it. The examples clearly express obligations from a piece of advice or suggestion. Are you following so far? If you have questions, you may always contact me by sending a personal message on my Facebook account or sending a text message. Okay, we are now down to the last part of our discussion, which are modals expressing prohibitions, which are can't, must not, and may not. These are used when we want to say that something is not allowed or permitted. A. You use can't to talk about something that is against the rules. it is less formal than the two. Examples: you can't drink the water here. People in the library can't talk to one another. We can't record videos in the cinema. They are really strict about it. Again, what we need to remember about the use of the modal verb can't is that it is used to talk about something that is against the rule. B. You use may not to prohibit something formally. Examples: you may not watch the television show. Employees may not have close contact during physical reporting. Abdul may not return to Palawan. Lastly, you use must not when talking about things that are not allowed. They are prohibited and forbidden due to real law, regulations, or personal obligations. Examples: you must not ignore the school guards and caretakers. The class must not use a cell phone during an exam. He must not contradict the doctor's findings to his medical exams.
Now that everything is already explained, it is now time to answer the activities in your desk. Are you ready? Let's do it! For Activity A, you will be analyzing 5 paragraphs, which can be found on page 3. After analyzing, here are the things you need to accomplish. Underline the sentence that contains a modal. Encircle the modal used, and determine the function of the modal. Go on and take your time, class. Make sure to double-check your answers before moving forward to the next activity.
Number 1. While you might be used to a handshake, it's not always the best way to greet someone in Asia. In Thailand, the main way to greet someone is the Y. You bring your hands together in a prayer gesture and give a slight bow or nod of the head while saying hello or goodbye. You should also acknowledge the oldest people in the room when you arrive and leave, as this is a great sign of respect. Again, class, you will underline the sentence that contains a modal. Next, you will encircle the modal, and lastly, identify the function of the modal used. To give you more time in answering, you may always pause our video. Once you're done, you can play it again to proceed answering the next item. Number 2. In many Asian cultures, the head is considered the most sacred part of the body. You must not touch anyone on the head, even children or Buddhist statues. On the other hand, feet are considered the dirtiest part of the body as they touch the ground and are furthest from the head. Never point the soles of your feet at anyone or anything sacred. It will look like you're giving them the finger. If you are sitting down in a temple, restaurant, or home, remember to keep your feet politely tucked beneath you. While more touristy restaurants and hotels will include gratuity on the bill, leaving a cash tip is not really expected in many Asian countries. In fact, in China and Japan, tipping is actually considered as offensive and abused. In most Southeast Asian countries like Thailand and Vietnam, tips are not customary, but you may always leave one and it is always appreciated. Number 4. If you want to give someone a gift in Asia, remember to check up on the etiquette and traditions before you do. In China, people will always refuse your gift a few times before accepting, and you must not give someone a clap.
For item number 1, the sentence that contains modal is the last sentence which is, you should also acknowledge the oldest people in the room when you arrive and leave, as this is a great sign of respect. Did you underline it correctly? Very good. Now, let us identify the modal in this sentence. Yes, you are correct. It is should and it functions as a modal of obligation. Number 2. The sentence that contains a modal is, you must not touch anyone on the head, even children or Buddhist statues. Can you tell me what is the modal use? Correct. It is must not. And it functions as a model of prohibition. Next, item number 3. Sentence that contains modal is in most Southeast Asian countries like Thailand and Vietnam. Tips are not customary, but you may always leave one and it is always appreciated. The modal use is may, which functions as a model of. Okay, let's now check the answers for item number 4. So, what sentence contains a model? Correct. It's in China. People will always refuse your gift a few times before accepting. And you must not give someone a clock. The modal verb use is must not, and it functions as a model of prohibition. Did you get all 3 answers correctly? Good job. The item number 5. The sentence that should be underlined is, you have to be aware that your host probably won't open the gift until after you leave out of politeness. Wherein, the modal use is have to, and it functions as a model of obligation.
Well done! Your next task is to accomplish the graphic organizer. Suppose there will be an election for Supreme Student Government in your school, and you will run as a president. List down your desired platforms as a candidate. In doing so, proper use of modals must be observed. An example is provided for you. Then, explain briefly your reason why you chose those platforms and what are their contributions to the school, teachers, and to your fellow students. I am excited to read your answers. Okay, time for activity C. This one contains 10 items with 4 choices. All you have to do is to analyze each item, then write A if statement 1 is correct and statement 2 is incorrect. B if statement 1 is incorrect and statement 2 is correct. C if both statements are correct. And D if both statements are incorrect. Let us analyze item number 1. Modal verb should is used when giving an advice. The first sentence does not express a suggestion. The speaker is actually in a situation where he or she is meeting someone. The second sentence is an advice. Therefore, it is an obligation. So, the answer for item number 1 is letter B. Alright, you may continue answering the rest of the items.
Let's check and discuss the answers. Since item number 1 has already been explained, we will now move on to item number 2. In the sentence, if a loved one is hospitalized, only one is allowed to look after them. The modal is allowed. Is it correct that allowed is the modal here? No. Therefore, statement 1 is incorrect. Next, it expresses permission. As mentioned earlier, allowed does not function as a modal in the sentence. So, statement 2 is also incorrect. For that, our answer is letter C. For number 3, what is the answer? Very good. It's A, because it is right that can functions as modal in the sentence. But it is incorrect that it expresses permission. It actually expresses possibility. Did you get their difference? What's the correct answer in number 4? It's letter D. Modals only have 3 functions. This is incorrect because they have more than 3 functions. Modals may change in spelling. That is also incorrect. Number 5. The answer here is also letter D, because in both sentences, modal verb may not does not express prohibition. They express possibility. Did you get it? Next, number 6. The answer to this is letter C, because the sentences both ask for permission, so they are both correct. Number 7. The answer is also letter C. Both statements are correct. Number 8. The answer is A, because it's correct that truth is the modal in the sentence, but it's incorrect that it expresses substantial obligation. Remember, modal could is used to ask for permission. Number 9. Letter A is also the answer. Statement 1 is correct. Must not is the modal used, but statement 2 is incorrect. It expresses prohibition. Lastly, number 10. The answer is letter B. Statement 1 is incorrect because modal verb could is only used to ask for permission. But statement B is correct.
You did it, class! One more activity left. There is a sample infographic provided for this test that explains the actions we need to do to avoid getting infected by coronavirus. Did you find it interesting? Don't worry, because you will come up with your own. Your infographic must contain the rules that you have to observe and follow when participating in online discussions or attending online meetings. Do your best, as you will be graded on the following categories. First, originality. Second, your topic or your purpose. Number 3, use of modals. 4, information. And 5, color. You may always read the full content of the rubric on page 6.
Now, let us see how well you reflect on the lesson you have studied by stating your before and after ideas about the topic. The first one has been done for you. Then, explain in what aspect of life you can apply the lesson. Do not be afraid to answer, because there is no wrong answer in this reflective question, okay?
Kudos for a job well done, grade 9 students. You did it in the first week. You can surely do it again in the second week. May all your confusion and questions were answered through this discussion. Remember to always put excitement in learning. Thank you and stay safe.